Hi, Kevin Henry, the Group Editorial Director for UBM Medica's Dental Division, including Dental Products Report, and I'm on a Google Hangout today with our insurance editor and my good friend, Teresa Duncan. How are you today, my friend?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, it's always fun to kind of see the behind the scenes stuff and the blooper reels and things like that that kind of go on with TV shows. And you've been such an expert to us and such a valued resource on what changes have happened with codes heading into 2016. But you kind of know some things about some codes that maybe didn't make it into the changes this time. And I'd love for you to tell our viewers a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, happy 2016, everyone. And yeah, I just gave a webinar yesterday, and what was interesting is that everybody wants to know what the codes are that have been changed, but I always find what's interesting is what doesn't get passed and what the reason is behind that. And so, I mean, just like you said, there were some proposals that didn't get passed that I found actually way more interesting than the codes that got passed. One thing that I want to point out, though, that did get passed is that check your sedation codes, because there were a lot of changes in the sedation area, specifically in time increments. So make sure that you're checking on that. So what didn't get passed that is going to be up for discussion this time around is the whole periodontal disease issue. So for years we've been hearing, how come there isn't a difficult prophy? Why isn't there a I guess a kind of moderate and intermediate level prophy? Well, and they've taken that into account. So there's actually been an ad hoc committee that was formed as a result of last year's meeting, and they will be presenting their notes and their thoughts at this next year's, at 2016's Code Maintenance Committee. I don't know if that means in 2017 we're going to have a ton of changes, but I'm guessing if not then, by 2018. I'm estimating we're going to see some changes in how we classify scaling with the presence of gingival disease. We don't have a code for that, so we're kind of just picking which one works the best. So we'll see how that goes. There's always a proposal around laser usage in periodontal treatment, and you really aren't supposed to take that into account. It's really what you did, not necessarily the tool that you used. But it keeps coming up often enough that I think that'll be part of the conversation as well. And what I found really interesting is scaling and root planing. Now they're going to be looking at classifying that as moderate and heavy, and that's going to mean that when you doctors go in and do your comprehensive exam, you're making your decision at that moment. Then, is it going to be a mild scaling and root planing, if there is such a thing? Will there be a moderate scaling and root planing? What's the difference in pricing? What's the difference in reimbursement? And so it's going to have some trickle-down effect. It's interesting, too, because I know you probably are sick of it. I know my audience members are eating it up, but, most of the dental industry is thinking, oh, gosh, she's going to talk about diagnostic coding again. But I can't help it. I think that's really going to drive the conversation when we go for reimbursement. I think the more you diagnostically document, the more your reimbursement is going to reflect that. And so if they're going to get more granular with the codes, we have to get more granular with our documentation.
And that's a great point. There are times that, and I know people roll their eyes whenever we start talking about coding, but yet that's going to keep that lifeline of money flowing into the practice, is making sure that you're doing this correctly and using the right codes. It's not just happenstance.
Right. Well, and your survey says that. Your survey talked about insurance being a huge pain point in the office. And of course, that's what's been keeping me busy the last couple of years, is helping get through those pain points. It all starts, of course, in the clinical arena, but it's a team effort. And I think once offices get on board with that. So that there was that whole perio thing. I kind of just went crazy with the perio talk. There was also conversation about case management, and I thought that was very interesting. Of course, these didn't pass, but it does warrant further discussion, and the committee acknowledged that. And what I mean by case management, if you look at the medical side, in medicine, they manage your case from beginning to end, if you have one. Some people have diseases, for the rest of their lives, so they manage the disease. In dentistry, we just treat, and then they come back and we treat again, and then they come back. So one of the proposals was, coming up with a case management code and a case management process. And while the committee acknowledged that it was a great idea and it's probably something for the future, it's not necessary at this point. When I hear something like that and I hear the conversation revolve around, well, this is how we do it in medical, I always perk up, because that's just how I'm wired, I guess. And then you start thinking, is that maybe how the coding's going, where we talk about a whole case management process? What I find really interesting is that some of the Affordable Care Act plans actually, when you have a medical procedure, they actually need an end date of treatment. And some of the plan members that were there were saying, sometimes when we go to adjudicate these claims, we actually need an end date of treatment in order to close out this claim. We have not run into that in dentistry. Could we? Well, it was brought up at the committee, so I'm going to keep an ear out for that at this year's meeting.
You're always kind of got your finger on the proverbial pulse of what's going on out there. Do you kind of expect next year then to be kind of the year of perio? I mean, I know you talked about that a little bit, but is that really where you see things going, along with maybe the medical dental side of things coming together?
I think the medical dental keeps creeping together more than ever before. I don't think we're at a tipping point yet where we have every office has to need medical training. We're closer though than before. So, putting on my Swami hat and pulling out my crystal ball, and please don't go to Vegas and make any bets on this, but I think 2017 we're going to see more perio movement. Well, of course, as our editor of all things dental, you probably don't remember this specific, but they did pass a code for caries risk assessment, and I thought that was curious because there's no reimbursement for that. Well, I suspect we're soon going to see a code for perio risk assessment, where you're going to have to pick something. You're going to have to pick whether they're mild, moderate, or severe. And if the insurance companies are taking a look at case management, it makes sense for them to take a look at the people who are costing them more money. So yeah, I would say 2017 we're going to see some movement. I think we're still going to see some movement in sedation as well. They're not done with that. That was a huge topic of discussion at this last meeting. I don't think they're done yet.
Well, you've got the Swami hat on, the crystal ball, and you're looking good. I'm just telling you, it's a great look for you.
Thank you.
But and that's something that I know a lot of the practices that you work with. That's why they work with you, is because again, you've got your finger on the pulse and you're kind of forecasting ahead. And I'd love for our viewers to know just a little bit more about what you and Odyssey Management do and how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. My website is a great place to start, odysseymgmt.com. My Facebook page, I'm always updating with news and sometimes some funny comics. I try to get a little comical in there. And I'm on the road a lot, so you can check my upcoming events. But typically what our clients need from us is help with their accounts receivable, help with their insurance processes. We do have some cases of claims cleanup, and it depends on our caseload. If we have a consultant that is available and able to do that, then we'll certainly take you on. Unfortunately, we're kind of tapped out with that right now, but check back in a little bit. Claims cleanup is intensive, and it definitely takes some work. So I'd rather train you on the front end and get your systems right. And then what an interesting new part of the business, new meaning about 2 or 3 years, that I really have started to enjoy, is coaching new managers and new dentists. And so not necessarily in systems and processes, but how to be a good leader. That's been coming up a lot. But yeah, there's something about insurance. I keep coming back to it. So yeah, let me know if you need insurance help. That's what I'm here for.
And that's why you're our insurance editor. And also, I'll put in a quick plug for Teresa. She wrote a great article for us that you will see linked to above this video about 5 insurance actions that you should be taking right now to make 2016 a lot smoother for your practice. It was great advice, and it's easily been one of our most read articles of the month. So Teresa, thank you as always for your time and expertise and helping our viewers with those pain points.
Thank you very much, and I'll talk to all of your audience members soon.